example, we are going to complete the square to write the equation of the circle in standard form. It then does want us to state the center and the radius. So we're given the following equation here. The first thing that we need to focus on is taking this equation, completing the square in order to put it in its proper form. Now, when we complete the square of a circle here, we're completing the square twice. Once with the x values, and the second time with the y values. So step one in this process, we're going to have to do a little bit of rearranging for this problem. So what that's going to look like, let's group the x values together. So like x squared plus the 14x. We want anything with an x together here. I'm going to leave a space, and then I'm going to add in the y values. So I'm going to go ahead and drop down this plus y squared, and then I have this minus 14y here. I'm going to leave a space, and that's going to equal to, we have a 16 on the other side of the equation, so whenever we complete the square, you always want to take your constant here, move it to the other side. So since this is a positive 98, let's go ahead and just subtract 98 to the other side, which is going to give us a negative 82. All right, so this is what we need in order to start the completing the square process. Anything with an x group together, anything with a y group together, your constants on the other side of the equation. Now we're going to complete the square, and we're going to do it twice. So first we're going to look at our x terms here. And keep in mind that when you complete the square, once you have it set up in the way that you want, what you want to do is take this little mini formula and add this to each side of the equation. And we're going to add it in here, and we're going to add it in on the right side. What this is going to do for us here, when we add in this number that we're going to get, it's going to allow us to factor the trinomial that we'll have here nice and pretty. Okay, same thing for the y's. We're going to have a trinomial here that we'll be able to factor in the form that we want. So half of b squared. So we're only looking at our x terms for right now. So keep in mind b would be the 14. Again, b is the coefficient of your x to the first power term. All right, so whatever's in front of the x here, we have a 14. So for us, that's going to be half of 14. Well, half of 14 is 7. And if we square 7, we get 49. Add that into each side of your equation. So let's say plus 49 over here, plus 49 over here on the right side. Do the same thing for the y's. And if we do the same thing for the y's, looking here, we're also going to do the 1/2 times b, and we're going to add that in on the left and the right side. If we take a look at our y terms, b is also a 14. So we are going to get the same number here. All right, so I don't need to do the math again. We already know that half of 14 is 7. And when we square 7, we get 49. So I'm going to add 49 on the left, and I'm going to add 49 on the right side. Now our problem is set up to where we should be able to factor this nice and pretty. When you complete the square and you factor the trinomial after adding in that 1/2 b squared, this should factor to where you get the same factor here. So what I mean by that, if we factor this, all right, factoring x squared, we know x squared is x times x. Factors of 49 that add or subtract to get 14 are going to be 7s. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 plus 7 is 14. Everything is positive here, so everything is positive in our factors. You should get the same exact factor, x plus 7, x plus 7. And since they are the same, I can go ahead and write that x plus 7 squared. We're going to do the same exact thing for our y's. These should factor into the same thing. And we can see, because we're working with similar numbers, y times y is y squared. 7 times 7 is 49. The only difference is we're going to have minuses here. Negative times negative is positive. But this negative 7 times negative 7 is this negative 14 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down the plus sign that's here in the middle, in between them. And since we got two y minus 7s, we're going to call that y minus 7 squared is equal to, on the right-hand side, we had a negative 82. We added in the 49 twice, right? Added in here, then added in here to each side. That gives us a 16 on the right-hand side. This is your equation in standard form. So this is the equation of our circle. That's the first part of this problem. Second part of this problem, they asked us to state the center and state the radius. So that's what we're going to do next here. The center comes from your equation here. You're going to pull these two numbers. Again, keep in mind when you're pulling from inside the parentheses, same number, opposite sign. So this plus 7 over here is actually a minus 7. This minus 7 over here is actually a positive 7. All right, so negative 7, positive 7. So that gives me negative 7, 7 for my center. Radius comes from this over here. Again, this equation is set up to where this 16 represents r squared is the way that the equation works. And r squared is a 16, which means that r is a 4. Right, your radius is the square root of what this number is. So center negative 7, 7, a radius of a 4 for this example.